To Pakistan now, and that country today is vigorously denying some serious accusations, namely from America's top military official that Pakistan's spy agency played a direct role in supporting insurgent attacks, including a deadly strike on America's embassy in Kabul and a truck bombing at a NATO outpost south of Kabul earlier this month.
The Haqqani network, for one, acts as a veritable arm of Pakistan's Internal Services Intelligence Agency. With ISI support, Haqqani operatives planned and conducted that truck bomb attack, as well as the assault on our embassy.
Admiral Mullen's claim is the most serious that the US has levelled against Pakistan, a country that gets more than $2 billion in security assistance each year. And while Mullen stopped short of saying the ISI directed the assault on the embassy, his charge represents a new blow to relations that have soured since Navy SEALs surreptitiously and secretly crossed into Pakistan to kill Osama bin Laden, and amid continued questions about whether Pakistanis sheltered him. Today, Pakistan's Army Chief of Staff said the allegations were not based on facts. Pakistan's Foreign Minister warned that the US would jeopardise its relations with Pakistan, quote, at their own cost. And Prime Minister Yusuf Gilani said, quote, the US cannot live with us and cannot live without us. But who's to be believed when America's most leading military officials lay down such serious charges? Jeremy Scahill is the author of Blackwater and a contributor to The Nation magazine, and I'm delighted to say he joins us now. Jeremy, when Admiral Mullen said that an Afghan insurgent group is, and I'm quoting him, a veritable arm of the Pakistani intelligence services, were these not the words that dare not speak their name? We've assumed this for years, haven't we?
I mean, perhaps the most remarkable part of this is that such a senior U.S. official would level such a serious allegation. And Admiral Mullen, of course, is on his way out the door, but he's known as having very, very good relations with the Pakistani military and the Pakistani government in general. But I think, Martin, that we have to be careful to remember here that there's this fifth dimensional chess game that's been going on between the U.S. and Pakistan since 9/11. The past 2 years, if you look at this history, you had a U.S. spy, Raymond Davis, killed 2 people in Lahore, Pakistan. There are some reports that say those are ISI agents that were trailing him that he killed. You have the bin Laden raid, numerous other raids by U.S. Special Operations Forces, the Pakistanis outing a CIA station chief in Islamabad, the head of the Pakistani ISI being denied entry to the United States because of a lawsuit against him for his involvement, his alleged involvement in Lashkar-e-Taiba's attacks in Mumbai. I mean, this is a very dangerous game.
Jeremy, here's the problem. That's the fifth dimension, but to ordinary Americans, we see $2 billion a year, countless training resources for the military and intelligence services, and what does America get in return? A nation that joins up with a bunch of terrorists and attacks a U.S. embassy in Kabul.
That certainly is increasingly the U.S. position, both from Capitol Hill and the U.S. military. But what the U.S. does get, and no one wants to talk about this, is the use of Pakistan's territory to bring tons and tons of weaponry, ordnance across Pakistani territory, over the Torkham border crossing and into Afghanistan to fuel the U.S. war there. Unless the U.S. radically shifts its position in Afghanistan, it will need Pakistan. And the Pakistanis know it, and that's why the officials are saying what you say they said.
But here's this Armageddon anxiety that many people in intelligence communities fear, and that is that Pakistan's growing nuclear arsenal gets into the hands of terrorists. Now, is that a serious possibility? Is this something that we should be fearful of?
I don't think so. I think that there's an exaggeration of how in jeopardy Pakistan's nuclear weapons are. There have been U.S. Special Operations Forces that have been quietly working with the Pakistanis to secure those weapons. I'm not saying there's no threat there. I think it's greatly exaggerated in the press by fake Pakistan experts. I do think that there's a deadly serious game going on between the U.S. and Pakistan, and the stakes are infinitely higher because of those nuclear weapons. My concern, Martin, going forward would be as the U.S. draws down in Afghanistan, if indeed it does, and doesn't need Pakistan for that war anymore, you could very quickly see Pakistan becoming an almost sworn enemy of the United States. If the Pakistanis were involved with this attack on the U.S. embassy, that's an act of war.
You know that the Pakistan government has repeatedly denied providing safe haven to Osama bin Laden, and yet there isn't anybody in this country who believes that. Many of us know that for a man of that notoriety to live for 10 years within a mile of Pakistan's military academy is just unthinkable.
Right. And
is it your view that he was protected by the ISI?
I think he was protected by elements of Pakistan's security services. I don't have independent information that it would suggest it was the ISI. There's no way that Osama bin Laden was living there without very powerful elements of Pakistan's security services being very much aware of his presence.
Jeremy Scahill, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. Next.